Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I have to be at work in about, let's say, 6 hours or so. Um, but I thought I'd talk about this for a second. Previously I did a video where I asked if Sally Acorn would ever be in a relationship again in the comics. Basically, like I said, I don't know if you heard me. Basically, a previous video that I did is where I asked whether or not Sally Acorn would be in a relationship in the comics again. And as I thought about that, I kind of wanted to also ask the question, and you see it down here, because I did talk about it in that video, and I'll talk about it here, and that is, will Sally and Sonic ever happen again in the comics? And will any romantic couple happen in the comics? And the reason I say that is due to the fact that when you listen to the first Bumblecast podcast by Ian Flynn, he stated there, as well as he stated um, long beforehand, that he doesn't want to do any more shipping. Basically, he doesn't want to put any more kind of like, oh, let's put this person with this person kind of romance. And honestly, no one can really blame him for that because of the fact that a lot of people want this and others want that. And it just causes a big debate, a big flame war, a shipping war that's not necessary. I think I think when Ian looks at it from this standpoint, he looks at it like, okay, if um, if fans can accept, with DC's New 52, if they can accept Superman and Wonder Woman finally being together, instead of Superman and Lois, then why can't fans accept Sonic with Sally? Or if he decided Sonic with Amy, why not? What's the point? And excuse me, or what's the big deal? It's kind of like let's say with Ninja Turtles. There are some fans that like Raphael with Ninjara because Ninjara was in the comics, and that was the longest relationship Raphael had when the Turtle Adventure comics, were done by Archie Comics. Ninjara was the longest lasting girlfriend he had. And some prefer Raphael with Ninjara over Raphael Mona Lisa, or even Raphael Aeoplex, or Eloplex, whatever her name is. So, a lot of people prefer different pairings, but you don't see them shipping or arguing over them. You don't. Excuse me. It's like, it, how do I put this? Um, it's like, let's say some of you support Cyclops Jean Grey, but you want to see Logan Jean Grey, Wolverine Jean Grey, Wolverine Phoenix, if you will. But you want Cyclops Phoenix or Cyclops Jean Grey. You know, you don't see that much arguing. Look at Spider-Man. Probably the best example of this. Some want Spider-Man Peter Parker with Mary Jane. Some want him with, let's say, Gwen Stacy at times, whether she's officially back or not. Someone with Gwen Stacy now that you have Spider Gwen, in her own comic. So you got all these different dynamics. And what I noticed is there's not much of an argument on either side of any of those. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see any flame wars. I don't see any name calling or anything like that. What I see is respectable opinions. Because yes, they all are related to comics and all that, but still you don't see people throwing knives and everything at each other. And I think when Ian Flynn sees things like that, he's like, he's probably thinking, hey, why can't the Sonic fan base be like that? Why can't I just write a Sonic Sally, getting back together like I did in 222 and not have people go ballistic because it's not Sonic and Amy. And I think I've talked about this once in another video. I think the reason being is because whether we like it or not, and Ian Flynn even knows this, Sally and Sonic are the default couple. End of story. I mean, Super Princess Daisy 90, I think Super Princess Daisy 64, I believe, said this in a video a few years ago. That is Super Princess Daisy 64. Said this in a video a few years ago. She said that if you were to put Amy with Sonic as a girlfriend, what role would Amy have? Amy's role would change, and quite frankly, it wouldn't be for the better, because she wouldn't really have no purpose anymore. She'd just be now the love interest. She'd just be now the girlfriend. And Sally is a default option because she has she's not chasing after Sonic. She's kind of his foil. Amy's not the foil. And, in a sense, that's a good point. And like I said, that makes her the default parent, the default love interest. And again, it's stuff like this that, makes you wonder, will we ever see a Sonic and Sally in, Sonic Sally or Son Sal again in the comics? Even though Ian Flynn has said he's not going to do it. He's not going to deal with that anymore. Well, like I said in the video where I asked the question of will Sally ever be in a relationship again, I mentioned that even though Ian Flynn said he would never deal with it, it doesn't mean other people like his wife, Aaliyah Bako, who also writes the comic, and other people like Evan Stanley and Tracy Yarlin and whoever else comes on board won't deal with it. Because I think if they realize people want to see it, it will happen. It will. I mean, take a look at Jay Foxfire, if you will. Jay Foxfire is one of the biggest Sonic Sally supporters there is. And she, among other writers, artists out there, have basically written or talked about or given a hint or a clue that they want Sonic and Sally to happen again, especially in the new in the new soft retcon reboot continuity. They want it to happen. The only problem is Ian Flynn wants nothing to do with it. But that is not limited to the other writers. Because what I look at here is Ian Flynn, he's taking on all these other jobs and all these other projects. I think it opens the door for the writers to come in and do it or do something. But I think what Ian Flynn wants, and maybe these other writers would agree, is just a story that gets maybe Sonic and Sally together and does it in a way that even the Son Amy fans will be like, okay, we get it. We understand now. We're willing to accept it. And we'll just move on. Because as it's been proven in any kind of medium, just because Sonic and Sally will be together as boyfriend-girlfriend, it doesn't mean it's a long-term deal. It doesn't. I mean, it's been proven in this comic period, even before the soft retcon and reboot. It's been proven countless times. But I think what Ian Flynn, in my opinion, really wants is just if if it was decided to get these two together again, to do it in a manner that everybody is happy with. Do it in a manner that's like you have Amy acknowledge, look, I'm happy for you guys, just like she did in her own way in 222. That was a good example right there. But have her as a character acknowledge, look, I'm happy for you guys. I support you all the way. But kind of have her jokingly, kid with Sally, like, and say something like, but if you screw this up, you'll have to. But basically, have her take a page out of what Monkey Kong said in what was it? In the Implage episode, in the Implage issue of 211 or 212, something like that. Well, he told Sally, "Look, if Sonic messes up, hey, I'll still be here. I'll be waiting in the wings." Have Amy. I think this is what would satisfy. Have her acknowledge that she's happy for them. Have her say she supports them all the way, but as a friendly gesture to Sally in a kiddish kind of way. Have her tell Sally, "Hey, if you screw it up this time, I'm coming in. I'm stepping up. I'm coming in. I'll be waiting in the wings to take over or to take your spot." Or something like that. Basically, kind of have a jestingly joke or jestingly kiddish kind of way to Sally, like, "Hey, you screw up, I'm gonna swoop in and take your place." And then kind of have Sally agree and maybe have Sally jokingly agree, like, "Okay, I get it, I understand, and you won't have to worry about that." Because I think the kind of relationship Ian Flynn wants written for Sally and Sonic is, yes, they do acknowledge the boyfriend girlfriend. Yes, they are in love with each other, but sometimes, just like in Sad AM, they have to put that love on the back burner, that affection for each other, that love they have for each other on the back burner because the missions have to come first. And I think that's what fans would like to see, honestly. Well, not just fans, but I think Ian Flynn himself would like to see. So, honestly, do I think Sonic and Sally would be? Do I think? Do I think they'll take a chance on putting Sonic and Sally back together in the new comics? Oh, in the new timeline, the soft retcon reboot timeline? Absolutely, I really do. I just think it's going to take a little bit more time. Why? Well, one, right now we're in a Shadowed World Crisis arc. Two, we don't know whether or not we'll get another crossover. And three, I think he wants to get things to settle in once the whole Shadowed World Crisis thing is over. Have things settle in, settle back in, get to know the characters better, explore their past and all that, and then go from there. But I truly believe, this is the honest opinion, I truly believe that going into next year, maybe not this year, but going into next year, maybe the end of this year, we're going to get some acknowledgement of maybe there's a pot of perhaps there being a possibility of Sonic and Sally together again. I believe it'll either be around 2017 or the end of this year, 2016, that we'll probably get a hint and acknowledgement of that happening. Now, as far as other couples being in the comic, there's so many choices. You know, in the old timeline, if you will, it was whether we like it or not, we pretty much knew who was with who. I mean, like I was saying, whether we like it or not, we pretty much knew who was with who, whether we liked it or not. Whether it was confusing or it wasn't, we pretty much had an idea of who was with who. Sonic primarily on and off with Sally. Bunny, of course, with Antoine. Scourge with Fiona. Knuckles with Julie Sue. Iron Queen Snively. The list goes on. We put Jeffrey Hershey. You know, we had an acknowledgement. Charmy Saffron. We kind of had a clue. We kind of had an idea. And like I said, the list goes on. Like I said, we had an idea. But the question is, will it happen again? But the question being, will it happen again? I think it will. But again, it's kind of like with Sonic and Sally's possible situation. I think it's going to happen after this whole current story arc and things getting back to normal, settling down, and getting to know the characters better. Maybe doing different universe arcs occurs. But the question is, who would they take a chance on? And honestly, it could be anybody. I think one of the more popular opinions in the eyes of many fans, whether some like it or they don't, is Tails and Nicole. They would love to see Tails and Nicole together because pretty much, I think, in a sense, my opinion, it's kind of like the equivalent of Sally and Sonic. And some have said, look, yeah, you may not, and there have been some valid arguments. Some have said, look, you may not like the idea, but Nicole's an AI. So she can basically age it, kind of de-age herself maybe a little bit to be about Tails' age, or maybe shrink herself down a little bit to be Tails' size. I mean, you look at DeviantArt and other places, pretty much a lot of fans would like to see that happen. So I think that would be one of the more popular options right there. There's a possibility that Fiona Fox could get reintroduced into the comics with probably a new look or something, and maybe she'll be the same age as Tails this time, and maybe that will happen. We don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. Knuckles and Relic. I know a lot of people don't want to hear about that, but that's a possibility. Heck, after the Champions arc last year, you had the shippings of Tails and Honey. That Lord knows where that comes from. But there's a lot of other possibilities. But will we see those happen along with the possibility of Sonic and Sally again? And I think we will. I really do. But will it be Tails Nicole? Will it be Tails, Tails with a new revamped, rebooted Fiona? Will it be Tails and Honey? Will it be Knuckles and Relic? Heck, will it be Tails and Amy? Or Knuckles and Amy? Who knows? The possibilities are just, endless out there. Will we get Knuckles Rouge? Will we get Shadow Rouge? Those are the possibilities. And again, I'm not saying it's going to be Ian Flynn that makes this happen. Because if he's washing his hands, like that, then pretty much it opens the door for the other writers. And with him doing all these other things and other projects, I think if he gives them the blessing and says, okay, go ahead and do it, but do it in a way that makes sense and doesn't cause any kind of shipping wars or any kind of debates or anything, then make it happen. And I think that's one of the reasons he's closing down the Bumble King forums. Not just because of the fact that he can't maintain it anymore. It's because you have arguments like this that always happen, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like that kind of stuff being brought to his message board. He wants something like, let's say, if he was to write a Sonic and Sally reuniting and becoming a couple again, becoming a couple again in the new universe, that he wants it to where it's more of a courteous kind of thing. It's not, oh, let's throw knives at each other and all that. It's more like, Oh yeah, I can more like a courteous kind of friendly, talk, like discussion. Like, yeah, I may not like Sonic and Sally, but I could see why they're together in the comic again. So I'm cool. I'm cool with it. I've got Sonic and Amy with X and with Sonic X and Boom and all that, so I'm cool with it. So I think that's what he really wants, and I'm sure the other writers feel the same way. But if Aaliyah Baker or Evan Stanley or Tracy Yardlin or whoever was to take the chance, I think they would do it with his blessing, but they would also do it right after everything is settled down, after the Shadow Worlds Unleashed arc is done, after the whole, getting to know the characters a lot better, maybe with some universe arc tie-ins. Perhaps it's going to happen. And again, I truly believe at the end of this year, maybe more so into next year, we'll get an acknowledgement or a hint of Sonic and Sally be coming together again. And maybe we'll get some kind of acknowledgement or hint that there might be more than just them together. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Um, but do I believe we're going to see Sonic and Sally together again in the comics, along with maybe some new couples? Oh yeah, definitely. But I think it's just going to take time. So, but let me know what you guys think. What do you think? Do you think we'll see Sonic and Sally again in the comics, together again in the comics? And how do you think it'll come about?